Yes. Okay.
Okay. So hi,
Hi. Hi,
nice to
Heather.
meet you.
Nice to
Um,
meet you too.
to start off with, would you like to say your name and where you are?
Mm-hmm. My name is Ming Wu. I'm in Toronto, Canada right now.
Hmm. It's a lovely deer on your wall back there. I just saw that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
um, sorry, I got distracted. So the first big question is, who are you? Who are you as a person, as a human being? And you can talk about anything you'd like in terms of your values, your qualities, any particular passions that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Just feel free.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I am a Chinese Canadian. I moved to Canada when I was 19, and I stayed here, Canada, since then. And yeah, I, I went to Gestalt as actually to begin with as my interest, and then turned into that I really love it, and I am in training, and becoming a psychotherapist in Ontario.
You say that you came to Canada. Was it you by yourself? Because at 19, I came to Mexico by myself.
Oh,
Or
really?
did your family move? Or
Right. No, I came to Canada by myself as a international student, and then my family moved to Canada, so I immigrated that way with my parents. But at the beginning year, I came here alone, with a arranged education institute that I can, land in and to study, and then move into universities. But yeah, but at the beginning it was on my own.
it's amazing the things that 19-year-olds can do.
Right, right, or can push through, right? Like,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah, sometimes we make some very crazy decisions.
I know. Yeah, yeah.
So, a little bit more about yourself. Is there anything like a particular value that you would say that you sort of hold or structure yourself around?
Absolutely. So there are two things that come to my mind. One is the value of keep on learning. I think the self growth and the learning is a whole life commitment for me. Um, so I really appreciate that. I appreciate the quality in Gestalt in that self growth sense as
Hmm.
well. And also, the second thing, they are equally important for me, is the authenticity that I get a little bit closer to myself, to my real self every day.
Hmm.
Hopefully, in that, yeah, in that motion.
Hmm. And any particular interests or passions in your life?
Yeah, I like painting. I I'm not a professional artist, but I do like the sensation of painting, that the getting the mm, having contact with the material that I'm using. um, Different material will give me a different sensation, and in the creative space of color and mixing and all that sense will, really ground me
Mm.
in a way. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Any other interests or?
Other interest, um, maybe not now. I'm quite booked
Okay,
and
oh, that's fine.
busy.
No, no, that's
Right,
fine.
right, but not
So,
something that's coming up.
okay.
Yeah.
So another question is a little bit about historical you. If something comes to mind as a particular event in your life or as a set of circumstances that you would say has really influenced or shaped who you are.
Uh-huh. Okay. That's a good question. It's a big question. It's a good question. Uh, I think one of the big experience for me is to immigrant from China to Canada, and that's a very big shift in my life, I would say. The cultures were different. Oh, before that, actually, I moved from the northern part of China to south part of China. So I moved between cities and provinces, and that was shocking experience for me. I would say that it's even more shocking than move to a different country because, because back then I was 14 when I moved different province and different part of China, and I didn't expect that much of difference because we were all in China. How different can they be? They were very
Very.
different. Yeah, yeah, and in the teenage years, um, it took me quite a while to adjust into different culture, different language. I was speaking Mandarin in one part of China and then moved to a Cantonese speaking
Mm.
area and need to learn a new language basically, and to be able to merge into that culture and not fully lost myself into that culture. I was struggling back then. So that gave me some, but that experience gave me some perspective of how different things can be. And even though it was a shocking experience, when I moved later to Canada, it gave me a baseline
Yeah,
to
you
fall
had
back.
some practice.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay. And
yeah.
so
So,
how was that experience, either of those for you? Like how did that change you or affect you?
mhm. I think so. There are two parts that shifted me at the moment to be able to deal with those difficulties or differences. I need to manage. So I need to adjust myself. I need to merge in. I need to try my best, and that's one part of me focusing on a lot of doing. And when I have time and space to process those experiences, then I noticed that those creative adjustments all came up, right? There are a lot of emotions, um, feelings that locked into those two big experiences
Mhm.
and gave me material to really work on who am I, and to really see in different perspective of, oh, that's what I did, but was that really me who's doing it, or me who's coping with those situations?
Mm. So that's sort of the authentic self that you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely. Yeah.
interesting. And in your experiences in your life, does a person come to mind, another person who has been a big influence on you
Mm-hmm.
or had a big impact on your life in some way?
uh, yeah, I think I think the first person who had a big impact on me was my grandma. She passed away when I was 6, and but I remember her in the quality of quietness, as if that she's water or something,
Oh.
that she is very nurturing to me, and she raised me. My mom was busy with her work in China and back then, and my father was away a few years at the beginning of my life because he needed to work in another city as well. So um, yeah, I was staying with my grandma for a lot of time. Uh, yeah, I remember that she's very quiet. She doesn't speak a lot, but she does things to show me or take care of me, or to show me that how much love she has for me. I think that's a very big part of impact, who impacted in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, um, especially in my Gestalt years, the training, I think all my teachers are great, great big impacts on my shiftings, that how do I look at things, how do I process, and what do I use to process my body, my sensation, or my head. Staying in my head is quite easy. To learn the embodied way, to learn the sensation way or emotional way, that's their work, and
Mm-hmm.
mine, but their work.
Okay. So another question, which some people don't choose to answer because it's not something that they really want to identify about themselves.
Mhm.
But the question is how you experience yourself within your gender or as a woman.
Hmm. Um, yeah, as a woman, um, that's a good question. I need to take a minute to think
Mhm.
about that. I think this is a very important. If we are waving something together, then this is a very important thread that in my whole project, that being being a woman of color, being a woman and being a woman of color in Canada. Um, it never occurred to me, or it yes, it never occurred to me back in China that I am a woman of color, because everyone is Chinese. and
Mhm.
and and in that society, it definitely feel different between being a woman in China and being a woman in Canada. Um, both have privileges and costs, and both have yeah, there's a different quality that I can sense, that as a woman of color here, there are more layers for me to go through to to express myself, to carry myself in a certain way, to receive the value or social script
Mhm.
projected on me, and there's certain space that opened up for me as a woman to be in Canada than in China.
Okay.
So yeah, I want to ask you that, am I answering your question?
No, no, I mean it's a very complicated question, especially when all of those layers meet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a woman where and a woman how and a woman with whom. I mean it's yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and the more that I aware of my sensations and my sense of safety, the more that I am aware of I am a woman.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's something about that as well. That physical safety or physical space, or how much of the space that I need to ensure myself that to feel safe.
Right.
That that's quite a yeah. That there's work there, and there's sensations there.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. That is very much the what the question is about. I mean, it's how you experience it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you. Um, so another question is probably changing track a little bit. It's about how you met Gestalt. How did you find it? How did you discover it? What was your first experience, or what happened?
Yeah, yeah. That's quite a story. I think my friends my friends recommended a study group for me at the beginning. So in Toronto, in the Chinese community, we have someone who practice Gestalt therapy as they're living back in Taiwan, and she provided a workshop that was in Mississauga, and three of our, my friends and colleagues back then, they saw the advertising or the flyer, and they asked me to join that workshop, and that was the very beginning of me encounter with Gestalt as a concept. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know before that Gestalt therapy existed. So so I experienced Gestalt. I had a great experience in that workshop. Great is such a word. In-depth experience in that workshop. But I didn't go into the institute right away. I took another uh, bachelor degree, my second bachelor degree in sociology, and then I switched uh, to Gestalt. Um,
And what was the first degree?
uh,
Psychology or
no
no?
economics.
Oh, ew. Sorry.
I know.
Sorry.
That's lovely. See the real reaction.
Yeah.
Economics. Yeah, it's quite a jump. I always know that I'm very interested in psychology, but
And
I
it's good that you also have a plan to make a living, at the beginning. That was
right,
a good strategy.
right. But yeah, no, it didn't work out
Okay.
for me. So I had that degree, but I didn't do much about it. So.
Mhm. So when you found Gestalt and you have this experience,
Mhm.
what is it that you sort of fell in love with or got excited about that made you decide to continue? What have you found there?
Yeah. I think um, I think the work itself, like how uh, honest, how yeah, how brutally that we can be honest with each other.
In a loving way.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
yeah, well, yes, in a bigger concept, yes, it's out of a space of growth and a space of support
Hmm.
that I take. But at the moment that when I was first year and feeling those feelings, and that background
Felt pretty
is
brutal. Yeah. Wow.
yeah, but lovely that we, like how hard it was. Most of us in the class, in my cohort, we stayed together and we stayed until, the end of the program. We survived the program.
Hmm.
We learned a lot from each other, from the way that the class was held, and we experience the the in-depth of that, how group can hold the space for each other.
Hmm. So, beyond that cohort group, do you feel like you're part of a community, a Gestalt community? Does that mean anything to you?
Yes, very much so. And I am very involved in the Gestalt Institute student clinic. I am
Okay.
one of the student clinic coordinators.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that clinic is to serve Gestalt community as a bigger concept. So
Okay.
we want to support our new therapists coming on board, to match them with clients that we screen and we see fit with them, so that at their beginning years they have that support.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
yeah, so uh, that 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 Gestalt community is always a calling for me, and I really love to be involved in that sense with Gestalt.
Hmm. Okay. And what about your work in particular? Is there something that is really what you do with Gestalt? Have you figured that out?
Mm. I
Sometimes it
think
takes a while.
yes, absolutely. And it's still taking the, I'm still, I think I have been practiced as a psychotherapist in training for 3.5 years now. I am on my way of graduating and say goodbye to the program. But um, so what I find in my practice that is that I took, my practice is built on the base of I am Gestalt trained psychotherapist. So I do explain that to my clients. But what's specifically standing out for me right now is that I can be as human as possible with my clients and as honest as possible with my client. Like to sense that our comfort zone and then bring the honesty to our session, like in a different level. And quite a few times that client will share with me that, oh, no one said that before, or um, I, like, or, I realized what is happening, but I was afraid to say that. I feel like, and then when we talk about, when we put it on the table and talk about the things that they feel uh, scared or shame or hesitate to share with any other people, it open up another space. So I'm quite it's a quite humbling experience for me to be a psychotherapist in a Gestalt way.
Okay. So, what would you say have been the challenges that you've run into in Gestalt?
Mm-hmm.
Or if a challenge in another part of your life comes to mind, that's fine as well.
Mm-hmm. Challenges. Um, uh, so sometimes that, especially at the beginning of my, practice, some of the challenges is that I might have a ruler in my head to say that am I Gestalt enough, to this person, and then sometimes we jump too deep too fast.
Okay.
So that could be a challenge to track it back and notice that I am not in my class.
Mm.
I'm not in my classroom with my,
Not everyone's ready for that.
no, no.
No.
So slow down, and how to slow down. And there's a whole, actually there's a whole another word of when I slow down and when the other person can become more into the space, that's the, there's whole uh, there's a whole space to open between us. There's a, yeah, more of a exchange going on.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the other side of that, what comes to mind as one of your highlights or one of your greatest moments or experiences within Gestalt? Either as a student, a trainer, a trainee, a particular moment with a client?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh, that's a good question. There are many. There are many, and um, okay, I can think of, okay. So I can think of many moments
Mhm.
that is
So,
really
tell me a
memorable.
story.
Yes, I will. I will. So Maple Lake. Um,
Okay.
that's our residential. It's the toughest, but also the highlight of the year that we do residential for 4 years in a row. By the end of the school year, that we will spend 1 week in Maple Lake, and then we live together. We run programs from night to night,
Mm-hmm.
very intensively for 1 week. So I think it was in my second year, and uh, my my anger and grief came up in the work, and then we need to go into the town and to do a visit to do a project, and then but I wasn't ready. I was very much in my emotions, and couldn't get it out. I stopped myself for the schedule of the program. So because I was crying like very heavily before, and want to manage my grief and to join the next activity. I walk into the hall, the gathering, the lunch place, and then ask one of my teachers that, so what's the next schedule? Like, I want to know the timeline so that I can prepare
I can stop
myself.
crying.
I know to, have a certain cry and stop myself. Um, and then she kind of yelled at me like, what is this? What is all of a sudden you want to know? How about the unknown? Like, be brave, and why do you need to know? And I was in shock that she spoke with me that way. And I said to her that, yeah, you don't have to yell at me. And then I left the room, and I cried and cried and cried to the end of the hour. So lucky that I was in the team that they waited for me until I'm done. And then I realized that what my teacher was doing is to push me off the edge to finish my cycle, because it's like that experience really took me uh, to another level of understanding that uh, how I am important to be experience the experience that I was in,
Mm-hmm.
not the program itself, not in the cost of anything else. I need
Yeah.
to experience what I experience.
Yeah, respecting the process.
Yes,
Hmm.
and
Okay.
that was a highlight. It was
That
painful.
sounds like a great experience.
It was a very special moment.
Crying and getting yelled at in the middle of
I
the woods. It sounds
I
great. I would pay for that.
I, I know. I was quite lucky
Amazing.
to get that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, how would you say that Gestalt has affected you as a person?
Um, that's a great question. Um, so there are different versions of answers to that question. So if you ask me by the end of my training years, like the 5th year or something, then I will say that it changed me blood and bones. Like, it restructured me, um, as if that I'm a different person. And but to have some times now that I would say it didn't change me that much, but it shifted me to a different place. Especially that it shifted me in a way that my own relationship to myself is totally in a different place right now. That
Hmm.
I learned to love myself more, not in a cliche way, but in a more accepting way.
Fun. Hmm. So, I guess really the last question that I have is what's next? I mean, hopefully you have a long career and long life ahead of you.
Yeah.
So what would you like to do with this? Do you have a particular plan? Is there a project that you are really excited about?
Yes.
And also, where do you think Gestalt will go in the crazy world that we're in right now?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right. So for myself, I would like to move into the psychotherapy, being a full-time psychotherapist in Toronto. I really look forward to that journey. To it already started, but to continue and to continue to learn different aspects of that career. That's really what I want to move into. And for Gestalt, um, what I can envision is that because of the courage training that we have been taking on in this crazy time, I think we can really to take the leadership of facing what is going on, like in a very honest way, in a trauma-informed way, in a supportive way, to support the community that we are in. I'm, I'm not sure how big the community is or how small. It doesn't really, it, the size really doesn't matter to me.
That's what they say.
Right?
What they say.
Yeah. So as long as we are, as Gestaltists that we are here, I feel that. I feel the leadership, or leadership is such a cliche word to use, but to take the next step, I think we're prepared for that. Our our training or
Well, I
Gestalt
mean,
itself.
yeah, we are trained to be in uncertainty, and there's lots of uncertainty these days.
That's right. Yes.
Hmm,
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Well, is there anything else that you would like to add? Is there anything that you feel like we've missed about you or your experience?
Um, no, I think your questions are good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I mean, it's interesting because we never really know where we're going to go. I've never met you. This is a blind date.
Yes.
So, and yeah, the questions seem to work to get us to the person, which is the
Hmm.
point.
Hmm.
So, thank you. I really appreciate your time and getting to meet you.
Hmm. Thank you for having me. Yeah.